all about building a stronger connection between strategy and leadership. And I'm sure many of you, as we reach this next stage of the pandemic, are thinking about your marketplace and how it's changed and how your clients' expectations have changed and your resources and where you need to be placing bets for the future. And so whether you are doing a strategy review or a refresh, I would say before you sort of say, great, we've done it, we can get on with it. Most businesses do really need to pause and think about, what actually is the behavioral change you're trying to make here, and what's the gap between where we are today and where we need to be in the future. And I think lots of businesses rush into believing sort of they've got the strategy, therefore they have the blueprint for how to operationalize it. And I think a great question businesses need to ask is what needs to be true for this strategy to deliver. If we look at where we are today versus where we're saying our strategy needs to take us, what's going to be the difference either in funding, in use of resources, in behaviours, in skills capabilities? What are some of those changes we need to go about and make? And I think generally they can fall into three categories. What is it with this strategy we need to learn? And unless we learn, we can't deliver it. Really quite challenging question. What is it we need to build or develop? And what do we already have? But actually, to be consistent, we need to align it with this strategy. And I really think that these three questions need to be looked at in a reflective and discursive way through the lens of organisation, leadership and individual, to really sort of tease out the nuance of what it's going to take to be successful here. And making the assumption that smart and well-intentioned people can translate your strategy into action is generally misguided in my experience. Let me give you a real life example of that. Big pharma company, McKinsey-led strategy review, their big aha was that their R&D function wasn't going to be able to create the volume of blockbusters and new molecules required for the business. And that actually they were going to have to collaborate, go outside, buy new companies, work with biotechs, work with universities to actually have the pipeline that they needed. Now, there was so much enthusiasm with the R&D leadership around that they didn't pause and do the translation. And I have to say, probably for about 2 or 3 months, there was complete chaos where you had leaders running around at conferences or with existing partners talking about potential deals. When we did actually stop and say, let us do this sort of gap analysis, this how are we going to look at the here we are now to where we need to be, it was very, very helpful in terms of saying we've got 3 big gaps here. One is we need to change the culture around not invented here. We need to be open to wherever it's invented. It's helpful to get this drug to patients. We need to make a shift in how we work in terms of, we need to have blended teams. They won't just be people from this company. And thirdly, we need to supplement or develop our commercial expertise of our R&D leaders. And it was only through really articulating those big shifts they needed to make that we could put a plan around it. And so I really would sort of say to you, as you're thinking about your strategic bets for the future, understand what you need to learn, understand what you need to build, understand what you need to align, and do that work, that translation work, to really have a good chance of turning your strategy into reality.